That isn't exactly the way that you're characterizing it. And I wonder why, the two of you, for example, cannot engage in a conversation at such a critical time for this country to find some kind of middle ground.
Yeah, I guess, you would do a great job writing speeches for Danielle Smith if she put it that way, but that's...
David Eby throws a temper tantrum with Vashi Kapela because she actually is asking the questions that we all want to be asked. Welcome back to the Freedom Pines podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Eby. This is where we debrief and discuss pop culture and politics from an independent perspective. And if that interests you, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. And don't forget to share this with your friends because I am almost 90% sure that my videos are not in the algorithm. So let's get into it. Man, the hatred for Alberta and Alberta's resources and not wanting to touch Alberta's resources for some reason, but being okay with a coal plant on the shore of the West Coast. Okay, you have got to be kidding me, David Eby. In what world are you Canada first with this messaging? He acts like Danielle Smith is essentially the devil. He literally acts like she is on the opposing team, like she is America. And in fact, Danielle Smith is doing everything to make sure that Canada could stay Canada, but people like David Eby are trying to make that not happen by not wanting to cooperate with Alberta. It astounds me that David Eby can do whatever it is that he wants to do with British Columbia, but God forbid that Alberta use its own resources. Anyways.
That there are 9 bad laws or something like that in Canada. And that if they continue to exist, that they mean that Canada is broken and it is not functioning. And one of those bad laws is the oil tanker ban off of the coast of British Columbia. And she wants that ban removed. She wants that law rescinded without a single company, not even one. She hasn't even got one company that's willing to come forward and say, hey, Alberta is willing to underwrite this thing. The federal government's here. They got a bunch of money for us. They're gonna help us. If they're able to do these things, we would love to build that pipeline. And the reason there is no pipeline company willing to come forward and say this is because they don't want to build it. All we get is a $20 million PR exercise.
What is he talking about? And then I'll say something that David Eby says in between Vashi replying to this, but this is what she says.
Real project should always trump made up project.
But when she talks about the tanker ban, with due respect, Premier, she is reflecting what those potential pipeline proponents have said, which is that if there is to be a pipeline, an additional pipeline beyond TMX, that tanker ban, in the case of that pipeline, essentially renders it null and void.
Yeah, so what is he talking about? He acts as though he's... First of all, if Danielle Smith lists the laws that say that this is why companies aren't building in Alberta, and you say, well, she's just listing some stupid list of things that I don't even know why people just don't want to, invest in Canada. Yeah, so actually listen to her, David. What is wrong with you? You have failed so many times to make anything that is being made or being any major project being utilized in British Columbia is being outsourced in places like Japan and China. Okay, so as she points out correctly, yeah, none of these companies want to invest because there's an oil tanker ban. What is wrong with him? And then in between this...
Exercise from a premier who's in political trouble.
What? So I would love to know, between the unions going after Danielle Smith, David Eby going after Danielle Smith, why would he say something like that? Danielle Smith is not in political trouble. She is doing things to protect children. Okay? There is a family and children's law for a reason, and it's because our government has a bad habit of taking people's children and, being very unethical with them. That is why those laws exist, David Eby. So I don't know what you're trying to say about Danielle Smith, but it's pretty clear to me, between the unions and all the striking and the premiers that seem to be vehemently against Danielle Smith, something is going on here. They do not want to touch Alberta for any reason. In fact, I learned in Moose on the Loose's video today that they have a coal plant. Now, let me tell you a personal story about a little coal plant that I knew, okay? I used to go to this little fun camp called Camp Oneida, and it was on Lake Erie, and it was fun because at nighttime you could look across to the lake and see the giant coal plant. Now, we were swimming in dead fish. We were swimming in so much dead animals until that coal mine shut down. And you're telling me, okay, that's my own personal experience. You're telling me that David Eby's okay with a coal plant running on the West Coast, but God forbid we repeal the oil tanker ban? Can someone explain this to me? It's almost like he wants all of the major projects, even though they don't want to touch British Columbia land. To me, it seems like some sneaky stuff is going on here, and he knows he's a POS, because the way that he talks to Vashi, honestly, props to Vashi, because I would have been screaming at him. Do not talk to people like that, David Eby. You are a premier. Okay, you can, I will say, most of the time, people like even Doug Ford, who I disagree with a lot on things, okay? Even when he's saying things that are really mean, like, get off your ass and work, he's funny and nice about it. What was I just watching there? He and his attitude disgusted me so much that I decided to make this video today. Now, before I play the favorite line, I'm just going to play this short that I made a couple of months ago, okay?
David Eby, do you agree with a pipeline if it was proposed through British Columbia? And if not, why are you okay with exploiting other parts of the earth and getting slave mined energy and not touching Canada? Can you
okay for your province to profit from its natural resources and not for Alberta?
You know, I think, I mean, with respect to the...
Now, I said that before. Obviously, all of this was going on and the major projects were going on in BC, and I had no idea that British Columbia had a coal plant. I honestly looked up all the job loss and didn't even think that you guys would have anything left. I don't mean that in a rude sense whatsoever, okay? But props to Vashi for seriously asking the things that I wanted to ask him, because that's a good question. And then he says,
border assistance and these, all we ask is that they stay out of the way.
But the difference is geography, right? Like, your province is the coast, and that necessitates, if you are trying to export resources, involvement of British Columbia. And when you say, why is, you're intimating that essentially Alberta wants too much, that they are entitled by asking for additional pipeline export capacity. Would you be okay with just one LNG project, Premier? If someone said, no, you should just stop at LNG 1?
I'm trying to imagine a scenario where British Columbia and the federal government are having private meetings about Alberta and Saskatchewan in the absence of those provinces.
So something happened here. And David Eby is acting like a toddler because of something. And I don't know why, because he's getting exactly what he wants. But Vashi points, he says, well, when we have major projects, we don't talk to Danielle Smith about it. Yeah, of course you don't, as Vashi points out, because you don't need Alberta's help. If you were going through Alberta for one of your projects, I'm sure you would be talking to Danielle Smith about it. Genius. Something's going on here. I have no idea who David Eby thinks he is, because he is a big donkey behind in this interview and really shows his true colors, all of the faces that he makes with Vashi. Can't wait to watch the girl who analyzes body language, because his body language is off the charts for being it. So anyways, tell me, like, the hatred for Alberta, I swear to God, is just baked into the left. Even the people who live in Alberta that are very much on the left and somehow have been able to ever get that province to be NDP, I have no idea, but I digress. They hate Alberta. They hate Albertans. They call Albertans the Texas of the North. I would be proud to be the Texas of the North. Okay? At least At least Alberta is allowed to love itself. At least Albertans are proud to be Albertans. Albertans are allowed to be patriotic, and that goes against the narrative that you're allowed to be proud of your ancestors and the things and the accomplishments that they did because the government implemented a bunch of things and colonized the land and then turned around and blamed our ancestors and you and I for some reason. So that's why they hate Alberta too, by the way. Not only have they been brainwashed, such a hard word to say, phrase to say, into absolutely hating gas and oil, which is the lifeblood of Alberta. They're taught to hate conservatives. Like, this is what's going on in the schools. And, you know, the other day I posted something about how the teachers should be striking during the summer. I don't care. I don't care if they have more collective bargaining power when the kids are in school. You guys should be being mature enough to realize that kids deserve an uninterrupted education. Now, I know that's hard to grasp when everything was so normalized and everybody was cheering on shutting down the schools on and off. But the unions should be willing to work with the provinces and the governments during the summer because we are talking about children's education. Now, I have respect for teachers. I've been in the education system. There are a lot of teachers trying to do good from within. It's just extremely hard. Now, I will say something very strange though, is that I heard a lot of people's complaints and a lot of them were complaining about DEI initiatives. I thought Danielle Smith had gotten rid of all of the DEI initiatives, so that leaves me to wonder, are the unions secretly teaching it to the teachers in Alberta? Are the school boards secretly implementing it within the school boards? Because that's the idea, that nobody should be punished for anything and kids can just beat the crap out of other students and it's okay in our schools because of things like DEI and, God forbid we give consequences to bad behavior. That's why we see the bail system happening the way that it is. So again, if you're a teacher or an educator working in the schools, let me know, because a lot of the things they were complaining about were kids not ever failing and just being passed through. That's DEI. All of the things that they were demanding from Danielle Smith that I seen online from parents at least was complaining about the DEI stuff. So you guys let me know. And I would say that I am one of the most distrusting people of government. Okay, I don't trust government. However, it does seem like there are a massive group of people that some of them even call themselves conservatives, progressive conservatives, for the most part. Some progressive conservatives I'm sure are good, but seem to be in bed with the liberals. And one side seems to want Canadians to prosper, be safe, be able to afford things, and, have hard work pay off. And one of them seems to want us in full-blown communism. Now, you guys can sit there and say that the conservatives have never spoken about the WEF. Yes, they have. So many times. I have video proof. I have video proof of Dr. Leslie Lewis calling out that's the thing, is that we have ministers. PierrePoilievre would literally, I don't even know how he could keep up with every single thing that's going on in Canada. That's why we have these ministers looking after certain sectors. So Dr. Leslie Lewis is someone to pay attention to. Andrew Scheer, Melissa Lantzman, all of these people are in charge of calling the government out for different things, like Gardner, Michelle. I don't know if she's even in charge of immigration, but she's on immigration because Pierre can't be on all of these subjects all the time. So, and people call me a sheep because I voted conservative even, right? We all have the freedomers who say stuff like that. However, hear me out here. I've seen the lawlessness. I've seen what happens to a country when they don't have proper laws or law enforcement. I used to be very anti-police. I understand now why Canada was so great. And it was because not only were we on an honor system, but immigration was working properly, because we are a country built on immigration, whether people like to believe it or not. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but right now it's definitely not a good thing either. And that was the country that I brought my daughter into. A country where, you know, I could be adopted at 16 and overcome a lot of learning disabilities and mental illness, and then have a child at 19 all on my own and get support, go to college, get my dream job. That was the Canada that I lived in. And it was a Canada that was ran by people who seemed to be more honest than what's happening right now. I always go back and forth between the libertarian, anarchist, conservative, whatever. And I've even recently realized that socialism, communism, and capitalism are all leading to the elites intertwined with each other and us owning nothing and being happy. So I don't know what the answer is, you guys. I have no idea what the answer is. All I know is that the little things that we can do in our lives to make our lives better is the answer. Like calling, if you're in BC and you don't have a problem with this pipeline, let your MP know. If you want energy, clean energy to go from coast to coast to make sure that all of Canada is okay, get on the phone with your MP and let them know. Let them know. We got this cloned meat situation dealt with. And by the way, there were people online trying to paint this as a far-right conspiracy. No, just label the meat. If you, okay, you're cloning animals, and it's, by the way, it's like an in vitro. It's not like taking the cow, replicating the cow. It's like taking the cow's DNA and remaking a baby cow, and then having meat come from that cow and other cows from it. Just unnecessary, but whatever, we got it fixed. Because this is what we need to do. We need to be loud. And like I said, be kind first, and then stern if they're not, do not comply. Okay, that's what I'm saying here. We are known for our kindness, so yes, show kindness first. And I will say, my brain goes there all the time with the bigger picture of, because I've known what the elites have wanted for years of my life, unfortunately. So it can be very overwhelming, but the little things in our life that we can control, like demanding from our government that they label cloned meat, is very important. And those are the little things that we can do that start making bigger change, right? Anyway, let me know what your guys' plans are for the weekend. There's tons of Northeastern Ontario stuff going on. If you're in the area, Village Noel. Oh, and if you're the woman who I met at the thrift store, please comment and say hi, first of all. Number 2, please tell me what episode Jimmy Dore shared one of my clips from. I still can't find it, and it is bothering me every single day because now I love him. I didn't know about him before. So anyways, guys, let me know what you're up to. You matter, okay? May the odds be ever in your favor, and let's take a deep breath. Anyways, guys, thanks for being here. It really means a lot. I've had my videos have been doing horrible this week. Very strange. YouTube is very strange to me, but thanks, guys, for being here, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.